Hello, my name is Jasmin Ramsey. I'm the Communications Director with the Center for Human Rights in Iran, where we've just released a new briefing on the difficulties Iranians face when they try to access international tech products. Speaking with me today is Karen Kramer. She's our Director of Publications, and she wrote our briefing. Thank you, Karen, so much for being with us today.
My pleasure, Jasmine.
Could you tell us a little, based on your research that you conducted for this briefing, why Iranians have such a hard time using international tech products?
Well, they have a hard time basically because companies won't, by and large, won't sell them tech products. They won't sell them because they're afraid of violating US sanctions. Now, the sale of personal communications tools and services is perfectly legal to Iranians because they are exempt under OFAC's General License D1, allowing the sale of such products because the US Treasury Department recognized how critical these goods are for freedom of expression and safe online communications in repressive countries. So these goods are allowed to be sold, but companies don't sell them because they're afraid of these sanctions still. And the reason they're afraid is because there's a lot of lack of clarity in D1. D1 is not very specific. There's ambiguities there. It also has not been updated in a long time. So tools and services that are now central to online communications, things like cloud and hosting services, are not explicitly referenced in General License D1. And ultimately, companies aren't 100% sure what's going to be permissible and what isn't. And so they err on the side of overcompliance, and they don't sell these products or even make their free products available to Iranians. Compounding this problem, OFAC allows companies to apply for licenses to sell specific products that are not clearly covered under D1. But companies don't want to do that either because the process is rather lengthy and it's costly, and companies don't want to incur the cost, or smaller companies perhaps may not even be able to incur the cost. And finally, even when you get a permissible item and you get a company that's willing to sell it to Iranians, we have a problem that Iranians can't pay for these products. Because of US secondary sanctions, banks are very reluctant to process financial transactions with Iranians. So that is another obstacle. The end result is that Iranians, by and large, don't have access to these international tools and services.
I see. Okay, so then if the problem is, as you say, very multifaceted, what could maybe the US government and tech companies do to kind of help support internet freedom for Iranians?
Well, there's a number of specific things they could do. And interestingly, all of these things do not at all require any new sanctions legislation or even the lifting of any sanctions. So basically, these are things that are quite doable to do. First, they need to clarify better General License D1. They need to provide specific, detailed guidance regarding what's included and what isn't, so there isn't this ambiguity and fear amongst companies. They also need to update D1, and that means, and to do this, they should, by the way, consult closely with tech and digital rights experts so that they understand what tools and communications are now critical for online communications and need to be referenced explicitly in D1. So they need to update D1 and they need to include these items in D1. They also need to encourage companies and reassure companies, and very explicitly, this can be through letters of comfort, public assurances, to say that, look, we want you to sell these products. We understand these products are critical for freedom of expression and safe communication amongst Iranian civil society. So you're good to go with these sales. You know, companies need those reassurances. They can also streamline and should streamline the OFAC licensing process so that isn't quite so onerous. And they need to designate payment channels so that when everything else is a green light, at the end of the day, Iranians can pay for these goods. None of these things, as I say, require lifting any sanctions. They simply require honoring the spirit intent of D1, which was to make these products available to the people of Iran.
Thank you, Karen. And to learn more about this issue and other issues facing human rights in Iran, visit www.iranhumanrights.org. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.